Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles! Resolve. In the last episode we finished the first part of this trial and we managed to link Mr. Drebber to Miss Scythe, or Mrs. Scythe I should say. She had another maiden name which I already forgot it all. Oops. Oh, I just knocked over my mic, sorry. Well, we linked them and now we are about to encounter her in the witness stand. But before that, we of course have to talk to our defendant in the antechamber. So let's just get going. It's the 24th October at 11:53 a.m. at the Old Bailey and the defendant's antechamber.
Ah, the knight errant himself.
Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Shawns?
I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs, as a spectator at least.
I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself.
I have to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What's this professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I've ever met before. Who even is he?
Of course, you were in Germany already 10 years ago.
Yes, the professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. But who knew the monster could come knocking at your door? My heart felt sympathies.
Yeah, so much for sympathy. As it turns out, Lord von Zieks is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realized, isn't he?
Yes, how true. His great friend from university in the dark.
And now a waxwork of the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaper failed to foresee that kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that in front of the man.
You make it sound deliberate.
I can't help feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling.
Oh yes, in what particular manner?
Well, there's Mr. Drebber, Dr. Scythe, and Lord von Zieks. It seems that everybody in this trial has a link to the case somehow.
Yes, in fact, I am not a member of the set. Though, that leaves me as an empty seat, all alone with no intersection to any other.
Excuse me?
Oh.
Dr. Scythe!
Ah, Dr. Courtney Scythe, nee Stevens, good day to you.
Hello, Shawns. That was very shrewd of you.
What in particular, pray?
You requested that 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you?
Why would you assume such a thing?
Because Gregson told me. To think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the laboratory, wielding my scalpel. I smell of nothing but corpses and disinfectant.
A policeman on the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Scythe. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. I'm hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened.
That certainly won't be possible. Lord von Zieks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it.
Lord Strongheart?
The Pandora's box you will want to know about is the professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any information about it out of me. But attempting to hide from the truth, that's cowardice. I've always fought crime in the way that I see fit. I have no regrets, none at all. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you.
She is cool, but very scary. She mentioned it too, this Pandora's box.
Whatever does it all mean?
There's really no cause for concern. I assure you, when the trial resumes, the meaning will become all too apparent, whether you like it or not.
Huh?
Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits!
I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much.
Ah yes, one word of warning before I go. If, in the course of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass.
Alright, I understand. Thank you. We weren't planning on Mr. Sholmes. We always pursue the truth.
Good. I shall make myself scarce then. I purchased a bar of caramel earlier, so I shall be gnawing at that as you gnaw away at the truth.
What did that warning from Mr. Sholmes really mean, I wonder? Especially the bit about whatever may come to pass. We'll see. I'm really eager to know. It's time for the final chapter then. I'm determined to find the truth, no matter what. Oh, the music is so awesome, guys. It's so incredibly good. 24th October, 12:40 p.m. The Old Bailey Courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue?
The prosecution is ready, my lord.
Yes, my lord. The defense is also ready. As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition. Yet we now find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation.
As seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord.
So then, let us begin our exploration of the defense's assertion that the workswork was cardinally involved in this matter. Lord von Zieks?
My lord?
Are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Tusspells? I forgot. Of course, it's not. Sorry, guys. I couldn't play for a few days. I just didn't have the time. Of course, we're awaiting Miss Tusspells, not Dr. Scythe. As you already figured out from the dialogue beforehand, I guess.
Not at all. She's in the antechamber as we speak, and ready to be summoned.
Very well. Bring in the witness.
At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Tusspells to the stand.
Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Drebber is responsible, as I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice in Dr. Scythe.
And what connects the pair of them is the waxwork.
Yes, the model of the professor. That's the key to the link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tenuous link, admittedly, but at present, it's all we have to go on.
State your name and occupation for the court, please.
My name is Madame Esmeralda Tusspells. I am a waxwork artisan and the proprietress of the Madame Tusspells Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon me for working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon.
Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now there are two of them in the world.
Oh my, what expression is she carving onto that face?
A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this?
Oui, that is true. At first, we believed it had been kidnapped.
A waxwork model kidnapped?
Yes, my lord. There was a demand for ransom money left behind by the culprit. However, According to what I have just been told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for the body of a murder victim.
At present, that is no more than conjecture proposed by the defense. This is the victim of the case in question, Mr. Odious Man.
But of course I know him well. He's a part of my Odious Personages exhibit. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Asmund does not resemble the professor at all.
Yes, but perhaps the faces are very similar.
Are you suggesting that we should see now the demasked visage of the professor? I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock.
This is absurd.
Pardon?
I don't know what face you've carved onto your fancy figure beneath that mask. But clearly it won't be that of the actual killer.
Indeed, the man's identity was never made public after all.
The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There is no possible way that the repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that information.
Sorry, guys.
Quel dommage! It would seem you are unaware of the Tusspells principles.
What principles?
The family Tusspells has always prided itself on sculpting its models à la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voilà, our principles. There is a well-known legend about the Tusspells waxwork from the time of the French Revolution. A member of the Tusspells family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Oui, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death, actually at the guillotine site. You are correct. The medal is on display still today in the House of Horrors. We Tusspells will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects.
Dear me, a somewhat disturbing tenacity of purpose.
It is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations.
Do you mean to say that beneath that mask?
Oui, the true visage of the killer is there.
This is ludicrous. It's out of the question.
The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain. As a result, the Madame Tusspells special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer emerging from his own grave. It is a sight to behold. You should come.
I think, Madame, it would be beneficial to hear formal testimony on this matter. You will explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in this creation.
With pleasure.
Witness testimony. The Professor Waxwork. Let's go.
The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with Tusspells' family principles. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered.
Oh, seems to be clever, but the gravedigger, the man sanctioned this.
Oui, I will do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance my family is celebrated for. Nobody else knew, only the gravedigger. What harm did it do, huh?
So you truly saw it? The face of that monster?
Naturally, I was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But Tusspells would not be Tusspells if we did not insist on absolute fidelity to our sculptures.
I don't believe this.
I myself have seen the special exhibit at your museum, Madame. a truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave.
The scene it depicts was the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time. The special exhibit was based on the picture on this article. It was the most detailed account of what happened as reported by the eyewitness who saw it.
The 10-year-old article has been entered in the court record. 10-year-old article, the newspaper article recounting the tale of an eyewitness to the alleged resurrection of the professor from his grave on the night of his execution.
Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words.
The public enjoys absurdity, monsieur. That is why I have reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum.
And it's a waxwork from that exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it?
That is correct. The professor you see before you here.
Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. This waxwork links Dr. Drebber to Dr. Scythe, and there has to be some reason for that, which hasn't yet come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Scythe and Drebber were in on this crime together. Ooh, okay. The professor's waxwork. But before we start with that, I want to have a look at the 10-year-old article. Mad Cheat Rampage. Mr. Drebber's dreadful encounter. Was the ball masqué to blame for the great blaze? The great stink. Parliament is to finally address the full issue. The foul issue. Okay. Krakatoa eruption. From local cemetery. Okay. So nothing. This is the contract. We already had a look at that. So let's start the cross-examination.
The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London.
Hold it! And that rumor would be?
A 10-year-old tale now, but one that Londoner but one that no Londoner would ever forget.
Alright, I know just what you're talking about, I think.
Of course, it couldn't be anything else.
Yes, that story will never disappear.
The tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my House of Horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city, and it was like this. It was in Lowgate Cemetery behind the prison, in the dead of a night after the execution of the killer. The interred professor slid back to the stone slab covering his tomb and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside him. But an instant later, he heard an ear-splitting gunshot from over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse and fell motionless once more. The scream finally found its way from the mouth of the young witness, who turned and ran for his life.
The corpse climbed out of his own grave?
And then somebody shot him? Who was it? Nobody knows, even today. But remember, it was just a rumor. Perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they love stories like this. That is why it was in every newspaper across the capital.
But was it just a story? I mean, this is exactly the scene that can be seen today at your museum, isn't it?
Oui, the special exhibit was modeled on that very illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madam, might I say something? Please go ahead, mademoiselle. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's entirely made up. I believe that often rumors contain elements of the truth.
That is actually true, but they become untrue because they are exaggerated, or some parts are are just fiction and stuff, so rumors pretty much always have some kind of truth to them. Most of the time, at least.
Ah, I see that people from the East can be just as astute as the people of Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It is not possible for the dead to come back to life.
Sorry?
10 years ago, I was there in Lowgate Cemetery, after the criminal known as the Professor was killed by hanging. It took a wax impression of his visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you, the man was dead.
I see. It would certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate.
An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse in accordance with Tusspells' family principles.
Hold it!
Is that true of every waxwork in your museum then?
It is, assuming that subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know.
What sort of letters?
When my time comes, please make a waxwork of me. Comme ça.
No.
My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a waxwork is an honor, and for some criminals, a symbol of status even.
Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax. Sorry, guys. The game is so awesome at times. It is awesome overall, but sometimes it just gets me. Alright.
And it is thanks to one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of the special exhibit, of course, the Professor.
Whose form you claim to have captured by taking an impression from the actual corpse.
There are no exceptions to the principles of Tusspells. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment.
Hold it!
Surely that's legal, isn't it?
It would seem the proprietress of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed.
It had nothing to do with money. The man is part of London's criminal history. That is why I had to sculpt him, to record his history. It is the raison d'etre of the Tusspells Museum.
But if the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know the killer's true identity.
I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the Professor.
Do you realize what you're saying? The Professor's identity is a national secret.
I understand. And now that the truth about the special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close.
Of course it will. As will your entire museum if you don't tread very carefully, madame.
That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think, don't you?
So 10 years ago, on the night of the Professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse.
Oui, exactement. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night.
Hold it!
You were there longer than you expected to be?
I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open and I had some problems with the chin.
Dare I ask?
The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. His muscles were relaxed and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought. Under normal circumstances I would have an assistant with me. However, that night I was alone. And as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time.
What do you mean?
When I take the impression of the visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after death.
Why 3 hours? Is that amount of time significant?
It is because of rigor mortis.
Wriggly Mortis?
It's the name given to the phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And then from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. The effect is often used to estimate the time of death when a body is discovered.
Well, that was an education, if a slightly scary one.
As the mademoiselle says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death, and it starts in the jaw.
I see. So that's why you wait.
Before that time, the mouth falls open, and it is very difficult to do my work.
It's getting hard for me to do my work with all this talk of courses. I wonder about that information that the courts just heard from Madame Tusspells. I guess it is significant. We're not gonna go with wait and see. Let's just say it's significant. The information about rigor mortis that you just shared with us. Would you mind including it in your formal testimony? I believe it could be significant, you see.
Of course, I do not mind at all. I can't help feeling that after this latest topic, the atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave.
This is no time for jokes, Mr. Sato. But that was a good one, guy. Oh, come on, Rinosuke. Madam, kindly amend your testimony as discussed.
Bien sûr. Took me a very long time because it was before the onset of rigor mortis.
I wanted to... Oh no! So that's all I have to go on.
What's your feeling, Mr. Naruto?
For some reason, Dr. Scythe went along with the rabbit's plan.
Now,
If that's really true, then the professor is the only other thing we know of that links the pair of them. So if I feel sure that waxwork must be a clue to this mystery somehow...
in that case, we must use this cross-examination to uncover exactly what it means. Otherwise, the jurors are sure to rule up the meanings, and the trial will be over.
I agree, but interestingly, uncovering what the professor has to do with all of this means more to Lord von Zieks than anyone. That's the impression I'm getting. That's the impression I'm getting anyway.
Yes, as do I.
After all, he has a profound connection to the professor as well. Okay, we have still got something. Created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. This took me around because it was before the onset of rigor mortis, and this is the thing that we are going to present something with. But we're gonna have all the dialogue first. Rigor mortis being the phenomenon you described whereby the corpse becomes stiff after death. I think you said that it starts at the jaw about 3 hours post-death. Is that right?
Oui, c'est ça. Of course, the exact duration depends a little on the season.
I didn't realize the waxwork artisan would be so well versed in the subject.
No, that is only elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine.
Well, I had no idea about it, but maybe I won't admit to my ignorance about forensic science.
I could ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you like.
I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them.
Oh dear, I'll do my very best.
And we are supposed to press here too. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered.
Hold it!
You say that dawn was approaching? What was the time of day then, approximately?
Well, I could not say. But when I left the cemetery with my utensils and wax, the morning light was becoming visible.
The execution took place on 17th June, which had the earliest sunrise of the year.
Indeed it did. First light would have been at around 4:40 in the morning. That really is early.
The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work in a half hour. It was necessary to complete the impression and bury the dead body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe, so I had to hurry.
Is it me, or does Mr. Shaw seem to be taking shape more quickly now, too? You certainly appear to go extraordinary lengths for your work, madam. I wonder, is what she just said particularly significant? Oh, it is significant again. Madam, those details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture and the early sunrise, could you include them in your testimony? I believe they may be significant.
Of course, if you would like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Naruto. It is intriguing. A sunrise at 4 in the morning would be absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it?
That's not quite what I meant by significant. Kindly amend your formal testimony then, madam.
With pleasure, my lord. I hurried to finish my work in the half hour before sunrise. Then I left as soon as the corpse was interred.
Alright. So we're gonna press here again, because we are expecting to have new... Yeah, there's new dialogue, because I can't click. I can click, but it just won't skip it. Do you have a reason? Do you have reason to believe you might be discovered once the sun came up or something?
I had paid the gravedigger money to keep my little secret, of course. But with the morning light, I knew that the warden from the prison would commence his patrol of the area.
Couldn't you just have paid off the warden too then?
I had already paid the gravedigger, as I said. You cannot buy the silence of everyone, or the secret is no longer a secret, huh?
The sunrise was at 4:40 a.m. that day, which means that it would have been around 4 when you began your sculpting work.
Oui, that must be correct. That would be when the gravedigger gave me the signal to come out of hiding.
So that's all I have to go on. We already had that. We're gonna go through that, but I just want to check, which means that it would have been around 4 when you began your sculpting work. It was around 4 when she began her sculpting work. Okay.
What's your feeling, Mr. Naruhodo?
For some reason, Dr. Sai went along with Dr. Drabbit's plan. Now, if that's really true, then the professor is the only other thing we know that links the pair of them. So I feel sure that waxwork must be a clue to the mystery somehow.
In that case, we must use this cross-examination to uncover exactly what it means. Otherwise, the jurors are sure to revert the leanings and the trial will be over.
I agree, but interestingly, uncovering what the professor has to do with all of this means more to Lord Van Zieks than anyone. That's the impression I'm getting anyway.
Yes, as do I.
After all, he has profound connection to the professor as well. Okay. So, before we do anything, let's go to this. It took me because it was before the onset of rigor mortis. And we do have the post-mortem autopsy, the autopsy report here it is called, death by hanging at midnight. So that means I hurried to finish my half hour before sunrise. Are we supposed to present here or here? I have to figure that out. But we have reached the half-hour mark already. And therefore, guys, I'm going to call it quits for this episode. I promise that I will upload this episode very, very soon. The next episode very, very soon. So you won't have a cliffhanger too much. So thanks so much for watching and tune in for the next episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Resolve. See you then.